As someone who reads a lot of manhwa and web novels, I for some reason only heard of Lord of the Mysteries like 2 months ago, after a friend recommended it to me. As it's a Chinese web novel and the fact that I mainly read Korean web novels, it was an entirely new domain for me. But when I started reading the first page, I instantly got hooked on it. It starts with the protagonist, So Min-grui, describing the intense pain he felt after he got reincarnated as Klein Moretti, who shot himself. Which instantly raises some questions in your head, due to the at first unexplainable mystery behind the death itself, which is a great way to get the reader hooked on the story you are writing. Over time, it then introduces an extremely intricate, unique, and interesting power system, which has a surprisingly in-depth set of rules and reasons for those powers. I won't be diving into the power system too much, because it does get explored in the novel later on, and understanding it is also one of the ongoing mysteries throughout the novel. To be honest, basically everything about the world of Lord of the Mysteries is shrouded in mystery. Like, we literally do not know shit about the history of the world. The 7 Orthodox gods ruling over the nation literally just disappeared one day, and only a small part of the world map is actually known to us. It's a very fascinating concept in my opinion, which if done right, can be incredibly entertaining. So let's look at how Lord of the Mysteries did it right. Just warning you before we continue, there will be very minor spoilers for the first major arc. Having said that, the first part, Clown, is fairly slow paced compared to the second part. They spend a lot of time on the world building in the first part and giving us a taste of what the rest of the series has to offer. Lord of the Mysteries likes to do this thing where they just have a fairly normal development with Klein just doing Klein activities, and then just jump scare you occasionally with either extremely gory descriptions of scenes or one of the biggest plot twists the series has so far, and you're sitting there like, what the hell did I just read? And honestly, I love it. Like, those little twists accumulate into bigger and more interesting plots, so even while an arc or a mission Klein's currently on might seem uninteresting at first glance, it might just be part of something much bigger that you never could have expected. Similarly, they just make the most diabolical cliffhangers and not elaborate on them for like a couple of chapters. Now usually those little twists I'm talking about reveal a tiny aspect of the world Klein is reincarnated into, and generally not just unravels mysteries, but in turn creates more and more questions, making you ask, how deep does it really go? Now let's talk about what really makes Klein Moretti, the protagonist of the novel, special and extremely cunning and interesting to follow along. Now this is the part where there will be very minor spoilers for like the first 40 chapters or so, so if you're planning to read this spoilerless, I don't think it hurts watching this section. As Klein transmigrated through the luck-enhancing ritual he recited on Earth before coming to this world, by reciting it in the world of Lord of the Mysteries, which is the power to move to an otherworldly place called the Grey Fog, in which he can conjure a majestic temple and bring people of his choice in, through touching illusory red stars floating around the place. And there he's basically something of a god, and organizes gatherings in which he basically pretends he's some ancient deity and completely manipulates all the members of his gathering above the Grey Fog. And it's just so extremely fascinating to see a small gathering above the Grey Fog slowly expand their influence into the real world as the gathering itself gets more high level and expands. Now I'll be honest, if I was in Klein's position, I'd probably fumble pretending to be this ancient god on the first gathering, but he does it, I'd even say a little too well. It's genuinely fascinating, since the members of the gathering are people of extremely different nationality and geographical location. They offer a lot of insight on the extremely mysterious world of Lord of the Mysteries early on, which makes the gatherings an extremely fun part of the novel and always something to look forward to. Something that can be complained about is its generally slower pacing when compared to other well-known novels and the insane length of it. It's roughly 3 times as long as Omniscirere's Viewpoint, and is 1,421 chapters and around 3 million words long. Now that is genuinely mind-boggling to wrap your head around, and can be very intimidating due to it being a big commitment. But I can guarantee you, once you start, you won't be able to take your brain off of this novel. There are always unanswered questions, predictions you might have, and interesting ongoing developments. And as such, the novel gets very hard to stop reading. I personally haven't finished it yet, but I'll leave a comment on this video approximately how long it took me to finish once I do. Now if you finish this series, comment your reading duration too. Even if you're not 100% certain how long it took you to finish, I think it will be interesting to compare. Now this is one thing a little less talked about, but one thing I personally like about this series, or more importantly this fandom a lot. The art going around for the series is phenomenal. It's genuinely the best and most talented art fandom I've seen for any novel I have ever read. It really helps to visualize some scenes as well as the characters. While I was reading, I used to look them up just to know what they fully looked like, since a novel can't describe a character or scene's appearance in its full, of course, and I don't really recommend you guys to do the same, since it's very risky for spoilers, and I do recommend you to go through this without spoilers because of the mysteries being the driving force of the series. With that out of the way locations and the overall aesthetic of the world is described is super pretty in my opinion. That aside, for manhwa readers out there, there's an unfinished and discontinued one, which covers some of the first arc, but in my opinion it can't compare with the novel, especially with the author's phenomenal writing. Other than that, a Lord of the Mysteries anime is announced too, which is absolutely huge. The animation looks absolutely phenomenal. I'll link the trailer in the description below. I can definitely see them rushing the plot a lot, which is understandable, considering the novel's ginormous amount of content, and in my opinion makes for a better viewing experience. Generally, people complain to studios for them skipping a lot of content, but I don't have an issue with that as long as they put effort into the important scenes, and the plot of the anime makes sense. Anyways, I hope it made you a little interested in this incredibly interesting, complex, yet beautiful piece of fiction, and that some of you might want to try reading the first chapter or even the first few pages to see if it's interesting or not. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!